Now we will discuss about periodic properties. Periodic properties means how certain characteristics vary in a periodic table. Okay, so there are very few basic properties which are there, which we have to study. Out of those properties, one property is atomic radius. Okay, whenever, is it visible where I am writing, or little down I should write? Atomic radius. Okay, now whatever factors which we are going to study today, they are affected by very few things. What those few things are there, let us see. Those few things are nuclear size, atomic size, then nuclear charge, okay, screening effect, and fourth one is penetration effect. These are the various factors: atomic size, nuclear charge, screening effect and penetration effect. These are the factors which affect the various parameters related to elements in periodic table. Okay, so keeping in view these four parameters, we will discuss various things. Okay, what those parameters are, this also we are going to discuss. First we talk about atomic radius. What is atomic radius? Atomic radius is the distance, as simply what radius is, if we draw a circle, what radius is? Distance from the center of the circle till the outermost boundary of the circle. This is known as its radius. Same is the radius for a atom or a element. That distance from the center to the outermost boundary of the atom is known as atomic radius. But atomic radius is not as simple as the radius of a circle, because circle has a well-defined boundaries. We draw a circle, it has a well-defined outer boundary. But this boundary is not well-defined in case of atom, because atom does not have circle lines like this. Atoms, what atomic radius in case of atom is, there is no such line. This line does not exist. And what exists? What exists is this, that it has a nucleus, proton plus neutron, and depending on the number of protons, the attraction charge of it is felt near to the nucleus, and this diffused cloud which is present around the nucleus, till where the electrostatic force of attraction of these protons are present is experienced around the nucleus, is actually known as sphere of the atom. So it is not a well-defined boundary. This is proton, its force of attraction is binding the electrons here, its force of attraction is binding the electrons here. But after this area, suppose the force of attraction does not exist, so it does not have a well-defined line that this is the line, inside it there is force of attraction and outside it there is no force of attraction. Okay, it is just a diffused cloud like area where we can say that there is an attraction sphere or an attraction cloud of proton present here. So atomic radius cannot be measured as we can measure the radius of a circle. Okay, one reason is this, that atomic radius does not have well-defined boundaries, so it cannot be measured directly. Second reason for this is that atoms are not, most of the times atoms are not found isolated. They are always in the combined state, because atoms are unstable, and to become stable they are always combined with some other atom of same element or other element. So they are always in combined state. When they are in combined state, we cannot measure the radius. We can take always the average of the distance between two. Okay. So directly atomic radius cannot be measured because there are no well-defined boundaries. Second case, they are always in the combined state. So we will have to take average distance. So keeping in view this, we never measure atomic radius directly. It is measured in three ways. What are those three ways? One is that we measure covalent radius. Or second method is we measure metallic radius. Or third way is this, that we measure van der Waal radius. So instead of measuring directly atomic radius, there are three indirect methods by which atomic radius can be calculated. Either we measure covalent radius or metallic radius or van der Waal radius. How to measure these radius? Now we will see one by one. Okay. So first we talk about covalent radius. What covalent radius is? Whenever a covalent bond is formed between two atoms, and here the atoms which we are taking should be same element. Okay, you cannot take average if these two elements or the two atoms which we are taking for covalent bond formation are dissimilar, because if they are dissimilar, one will have bigger size, other will have a smaller size, then you cannot take the average of it as the distance for atomic radius. Okay, so first condition while measuring covalent radius is that the atoms which are combining to form covalent bond should be of the same element. This is the distance between the two, because some part is overlapped. Whenever bond is formed, the atoms are overlapped. So half of the internuclear distance between covalently bonded similar atoms is covalent radius. So what covalent radius is? Half of the internuclear, these are the nucleus, from the nucleus of the one atom to the nucleus of the other atom, half of this distance, half of internuclear distance between two covalently bonded similar atoms is known as covalent radius. Okay, for example, H2, Cl2, these are the molecules. These are same type of atoms bonded to form molecule. When the distance between the centers of these two atoms which are similar is taken, it will give you the value of covalent radius. So for all molecules which are covalently bonded, always atomic radius measurement is done through their covalent radius. Okay, instead of measuring it directly, because direct measurement will not give the correct value. So this is the method for covalent radius. Okay. Now, second method, you just keep in mind that when covalent radius we are taking, these atoms are overlapping each other. Okay, some part is overlapped. Now the second method for measurement of radius is van der Waal radius. How van der Waal radius is measured? If I take this is hydrogen atom, or you can say it is H2 molecule. Another hydrogen. Okay, when such molecules are present, whenever there are molecules of a particular substance, they are always in bulk, they are not alone. So when many such molecules are present, then in covalent radius what we have taken? We have taken internuclear distance, half of this distance between two covalently bonded atoms. In case of van der Waals radius, the half distance between two non-bonded, that means van der Waals radius is what? Half of internuclear distance. Half of internuclear distance between two non-bonded similar atoms. Means if they are placed close to each other, whenever molecules of a substance are there, they are always in a bulk and they are placed side by side to each other. So when these are placed side by side to each other, then the distance between the two non-bonded atoms of the same element, not different element, because if the elements are different, sizes will be different. So we cannot take the half distance of that. Half is only possible when the elements are of same substance. Okay, so half the distance of this will give the value of van der Waals radius. Generally for those elements who form covalent bond, covalent radius is taken. But how van der Waals radius is taken, this we are just discussing. Van der Waals radius has more importance when we can have, we have these are helium atoms. These are inert gases. Neon, they don't form bonding with another because they are inert gases. So in this case, because these molecules are not bonded to some other, then in that case what will be done? In the bulk of these molecules, half the distance of non-bonded same type of atoms is taken, and that radius is known as van der Waals radius. Okay, so the significance of van der Waals radius is for those elements which do not form covalent bonds. Okay, but if we are comparing the radius of helium to the radius of hydrogen, then we cannot compare covalent radius of this and van der Waals radius of this. Definitely the van der Waals radius will always come longer than the covalent radius of any element, because this is formed by overlapping, so the distance will be shorter and half of it will also be less. This distance is always longer because these are not bonded to each other, so this distance is always going to come longer. So why we require van der Waals radius of hydrogen? Only when we have to compare it, the radius of hydrogen to the radius of helium or any other inert gas. In that case, comparison will always be done by the same parameter. If we are taking van der Waals radius of this, we will also have to take van der Waals radius of this, so that we can compare both of them. Clear? For that purpose, we need its van der Waals radius. Otherwise, in normal condition, we will consider covalent radius of hydrogen atom. Okay? So this is van der Waals radius, half internuclear distance between two non-bonded similar atoms. Clear? Third radius is the metallic radius. Third type of radius is metallic radius. Metallic radius is for metallic elements. All metals are always, if I take sodium, okay, if sodium metal is there are many many atoms of sodium. So sodium is having atomic number 11. Its configuration is according to old classification, configuration 2, 8 and 1 we write. Otherwise we will write 1s2, 2s2, 2p6 and 3s1. This is the configuration according to the quantum mechanical model. So 3s1, that is one electron is there in the outermost shell, and to become stable, sodium always loses this electron. Okay, so in case of metals, this outer electron, because metals are always electropositive in nature, they have tendency to lose the loosely bound electron which is present in the outermost shell. So whenever metals are present in the bulk or in their group, they are never present as neutral atom. They are always present as Na positive, and C of electron is always there. Na positive and C of electron outside, means this electron which is loosely bound to the orbit, or you can say the shell of sodium or any other metal. It is always loosely bound, means it has just left its orbit and it has come out of it, but still it is in attraction with the positive charge. But as soon as some little attraction it feels, it can be lost and goes to other. For example, if chlorine is nearby, then this electron will be attracted by chlorine and it will be lost by this sodium. Okay, so in case of metals, the structure is like this, that always electrons are floating around the metal ion. So all these are present in the form of ions in case of metals. So when these metal ions are present in the metal element, then the half the distance, or you can say half internuclear distance between two metal ions will give metallic radius. Okay, so metallic radius, first thing will be only for metals. Okay, and half the internuclear distance between two metal ions, same metal ions. Okay, not dissimilar, similar metal ions. So this distance will give the value of metallic radius. Now because these are ions, so the force of attraction between them will be electrostatic force of attraction. So they will be pulled to near to each. Though we have drawn it like this, but actually they are pulled near. They are not overlapping because they are not forming bond. Okay, they are just attracting because of charges. Okay, so these are near to each other. In case of covalent radius, they were overlapping. In case of van der Waals forces, there were no forces to attract each other. In this case, there are electrostatic forces of attraction. Okay, so if we compare the three radius, always van der Waals radius is longest. Okay, then metallic radius, and the smallest is covalent radius. The smallest one is covalent radius. Okay, this is the order. Van der Waals radius is always longest, then metallic radius, then covalent radius. This order will be followed every time. It's not necessary, as I told. For example, if I make, I have to find van der Waals radius for chlorine atom. So one way is this, that for chlorine atom, I can have Cl2 molecules. Cl are having covalent bond. Another molecule of chlorine and chlorine having covalent bond. This bond is covalent. This bond is also covalent. So the radius given by these will be covalent radius. And if I measure the distance between these two chlorine atoms which are not bonded to each other, the half distance of this will give me van der Waals radius. Okay, this is one way. Also, I can find out van der Waals radius even if I don't have Cl2. Then also, how? If I have HCl molecule. If I have HCl, H small, Cl big. Okay, H small, Cl big. Now I have to measure van der Waals radius of chlorine atom. I can measure half the internuclear distance of two same atoms which are not bonded to each other. So this is also one of the way. It's not necessary that they should be of the same type of molecules, but the distance between the atoms which we are measuring should be of the same type. They may be bonded to something else, but these should be same. Okay. So this way also is possible for measurement of van der Waals radius. So these are three types of radius. Clear? Now, after knowing about the different type of radius which exist, now we will talk about the trend. Trend of atomic radius. Atomic radius means maybe covalent, maybe van der Waals, maybe metallic, है ना? Because we have calculated atomic radius with the help of any of these three methods. So trend of atomic radius in periodic table. Okay. Now when we want to study the trend of these properties in periodic table, we should know that what happens in periodic table when we move from one end to another. Okay. Now if I write here hydrogen, helium, okay, then lithium, beryllium, then boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine and neon. Let me write this much only. This is period number 1, this is period number 2. When we observe in a period, this is hydrogen has atomic number 1, helium has atomic number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. In a periodic table, when we move from left to right, okay, what we notice that the period number is going to remain the same. That means what? Period number tells us about what? Shell number, or we have seen this thing, that period number is telling us about the shell. So in case of one period, we can say, then we see that the shell is not changing. That means what? If it is here second shell, so it is 2s1, this is 2s2, this is 2s2, 2p1, this is 2s2, 2p2, this is 2s2, 2p3, this one is 2s2, 2p4, and this one is 2s2, 2p5, and this one is 2s2, 2p6. Means from moving from left to right, the shell number is not changing. The electrons are increasing in the same shell. Here only one electron was there in second shell, here 2 electrons, here 3, here 4, 5, then 6, then 7, then 8. That means electrons are getting added in the same shell. When electrons are getting added in the same shell, at the same time when electrons are getting added, protons are also increasing. Here the proton number was 1, here proton number is 2. Here it becomes 3, here 4, here 5, 6, 7 and 8. So gradually what is happening? As the number of electrons are increasing in the same shell, the proton number is also increasing in the nucleus. So this increase in the proton number is known as increase in nuclear charge, because this charge of proton is present in the nucleus. So this is called increase in nuclear charge. Okay, so nuclear charge is increasing and electrons are getting added in the same shell. So because of this, what happens? That because nuclear charge is increasing in the nucleus, proton number is gradually increasing by 1 each time, and electrons are getting added in the same shell, shell number 2. So there is attraction between electrons and protons. When more protons are also getting more and more, so they are attracting each other. This causes this shell to shrink. this causes shrinking of the shell. The shell got shrunken and the size of atom reduces on going from left to right. Clear? So the reason when we move from left to right in a periodic table, atomic size decreases. Okay, atomic size decreases on moving from left to right. Though the number of electrons are increasing, still the size is decreasing. Why? Because nuclear charge is increasing, and this increased nuclear charge is causing the shell to be pulled inside, and shrinking of the shell occurs, and this results in smaller size of the atom. Clear? So this is the reason that why we have smaller size here in case of every period. So if we start from lithium to beryllium, size is smaller, 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 further small, small and small. Okay? The size goes on decreasing. Clear? In case of these neon, means you can say inert gases also, the size will be decreased. Okay? Just one trend we will see, that the values I just wanted to tell you. If values I can tell, so you can compare the values, because values we cannot remember. Also we don't need to remember them. Values, if they are given, let me see. If not given, we cannot do. Okay. For example, lithium in period number 2, lithium has atomic size 152 picometer. Then beryllium has 111 picometer, boron has 88, carbon has 77 picometer, nitrogen has 70, oxygen has 74 and fluorine has 72. Okay. So in all these data which I have read, you saw that atomic radius of nitrogen is coming smallest. So that is some different factor which is responsible. Extra stability reason is there. Okay. So for period number 2, the smallest atomic size is coming for fluorine because of the more shrinking. For these inert gases, there are some other reasons because of which the size of the atom again increases. It goes on decreasing and decreasing, but for inert gases some other factors are applicable. What those factors are? That because of completely filled orbitals inside, there are inter-electronic repulsions also, means more electrons are gathering, all are paired, so they start repelling. So decreasing. One factor for decreasing is what? The proton is pulling, that is why the size is decreasing. But till we reach neon, then what happens? That these electrons which are getting collected in the same shell, those are completely full when we reach neon. So they also start repelling each other. So one factor is pulling inside, another factor is active now, which is repelling. So because of that, the size of neon becomes little larger. So if we compare all, then the smallest size will come in the series for halogens. Okay. So this is the trend for atomic size when we move from left to right in a periodic table. Now when we move from top to bottom, okay, top to bottom in a periodic table, then what happens? If we write hydrogen, then lithium, sodium, potassium, cesium, rubidium, cesium and francium. This is one group. Any one group we can consider. Now what we see, this is period number 1, period 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. We know that whatever is the period number, that is the shell number. The hydrogen atom has only one shell, lithium has 2, sodium has 3, potassium has 4 shells, rubidium has 5 shells, cesium has 6. Okay. As we are moving from top to bottom, the number of shells are increasing. So it is very clear that the size of atom is increasing because of number of shells are increasing. At the same time, it is also true that here the atomic number of lithium is 3, sodium is 11, potassium is 19. So gradually, if we are moving from top to bottom, the number of electrons are also increasing. When number of electrons are increasing, number of protons are also increasing, because they will increase in the same order. As many is the number of electrons, same is the number of proton also. So when proton are increasing, nuclear charge is also increasing. And whenever nuclear charge increases, atomic size should reduce because of the effective nuclear charge which is applied from the center to the outermost shell. One factor is that nuclear charge is increasing. Second factor is this, that the number of shells are increasing. But when we talk about the net effect, the two effects are there and one of the effect is cancelled by the other effect. So when we move from top to bottom, nuclear charge is increasing as well as the number of shells are increasing. But the effect of increased nuclear charge is cancelled by the effect of increasing atomic number of shells. And because of this, when we move from top to bottom, atomic size always increases. Okay, this effect becomes non-prominent. Which effect becomes prominent? The effect of increase in the number of shells become prominent effect. Clear? So because of this reason, top to bottom atomic size increases. So francium is a radioactive element. Cesium will have the highest value for atomic radius. In this particular group also, top to bottom, this will have highest value for atomic radius. And also in the whole periodic table, if we see, this cesium has the highest value for atomic radius. Why? You can just see. If we are moving from left to right, the smallest radius coming for halogens. Okay. Now, the highest radius in the lithium, from lithium to fluorine, not hydrogen is having helium here. So from lithium to fluorine, if we observe, smallest value for atomic radius is coming for halogens. Now lithium has the highest value in this period. In the whole period, it has the highest value. And higher than this is this, higher than this is this, and higher than this is this, and finally this has the highest value. Okay. Now if we move down from fluorine to chlorine, chlorine to bromine, bromine to iodine and astatine. Astatine is a radioactive, so we will not discuss iodine. So this is the smallest. Then if we go down, the atomic radius is increasing, but it will not increase as much as it will increase for cesium. Why? Because when here is cesium, if we see this period, so in this period also, if you see, from moving from left to right, atomic radius will decrease. So decrease means cesium will have highest value in this period and iodine will have lowest value. That means the value of iodine cannot be more than cesium. This manner, the highest value for atomic radius in whole periodic table is for cesium. Okay. Though fluorine does not have the lowest value, there are certain reasons, other reasons which we will discuss later. But you can say that halogens have the lowest value, but fluorine does not have the lowest value. Okay.